Hey guys, Sam here, back with you. Next up, by request from the members, is a look at Tesla. Now, I've got it up on a one-day chart. Now, there's part of me that wants to say, when I bring up a chart and I see that, I just next chart. I mean, and I say that because I mean, can we get a count on it? Yeah. Yeah, we can get a count on it. Is there any sort of probability position we can take here where we could really take a strong stance based on the technicals that we're seeing here? I would propose to you that that's not the case here. But let's just work through it quickly here, because there is a count here, and then as to where we are in the count, you could really just say, okay, well, I've got a range. So this here's the low end of the range, and we're just bouncing between that. That simplifies it. But as an Elliott trader, of course, the first challenge is, can I get a count on here that would make sense? And then if so, does that help me in terms of is there a trade now? And you can make a case here that we're just bumping it with shit. Look where we are. We're just bumping into this area of prior resistance, but now we've been through it. Yeah, of course. So you might say that we have a secondary level down here, right, at these lows here, and we're kind of stuck in that zone here. So we're coming back to the area that has proven to be, an opportunity to be a buyer. Now, so does that mean it's a buy? Well, I think to some degree, then you do work through the count and say, well, do I have any sort of a probability event here where I can put on something with some confidence? So aside from what we're just showing here, I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Now, this is one of those cases where I think, because it's so squirrely down here, going to log scale. So sorry, damn it. Never fails as soon as I start recording. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I can get a solid 1, 2 here. Now, yeah, it's ugly, but there is a diagonal into this. So I can get the 1, a nice little ABC, into the 2. Now, the 3 also relative, this is a very shallow 2. That's one hell of a 3, 4. I've got the subdivision, so I'm fairly confident in the 1, 2, 3 here. Nice big ABC to get us down to the 4. Now, I'm going to take it out of log scale here just so it doesn't look so askew when we start doing pulls here. So I'm still on the daily. So ABC 4, 1, 2 looks also quite solid. Let me open this up a little bit. So the question is, are we done yet? Or do we have something in? Well, there's a count that can allow us to finish up here in obviously what would be essentially a triple, almost a quadruple top up here. So as you would, so since the 1, 2 seems relatively solid, of course, first thing, let's just look, are we technical here? So we know a 2 anywhere from the 50 to the 786. So here's golden zone, kicks it out. So that immediately makes me think the sell side algo probably won the day here. So if I look here, all right, so pushing right there. Okay, so look at this little fib fight we have here. One algorithm here is buying in this golden zone. We've got another one here selling. Is that a front run on it? Yeah, let's see how tight am I tight on. Yeah, it looks like that's likely. So they'd start selling at the 50. They'll defend to the 65. So up here, that looks like you can probably get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get your C down here. So this one breaks. So you see here they defend, but they break. So this algo wins the day here, and they are denied target as well. So then is it something smaller? We pulling in here. Is that doing it? Well, that could be right. Well, let's get right on the low here. Okay, so could just be that this algorithm here. So here's the play, right? So let me get right on there. Shit, hang on. Get right on it. So I'm not. There we go. Okay, so here's the algo pattern. Swing low. Here's the 50. Here's the target. So it looks, because we're being denied lower, it implies to me that one of these here, we're at the 50 again. They took some profit, and then you have the reaction. So I'm a little surprised we didn't make that, although that would have been very deep. Oh, and there looks like there could be, you might have some geometry here. I wouldn't shy away from checking it. A little too steep there, so then I'd check shift. Okay, maybe modified shift looks, there you go, there it is. All right, so we get 1, 2, 3, come to the median line. So so it could be the little push through is just to get to the median line. So there's your contender for for an ABC into the, so if this is correctly identified here, and this is just a straight rip up, 1 ABC into the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, the A looks solid. It's not, not a lot of subdivision in that B. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we finished with a diagonal in the C to give us our 2 as we tag that median line. So let's clear some of this up here and see how it looks coming back up. But there's always a reason. Right? So looking there, looks like that ABC is done. So that gives us our 1, 2. Now to measure, as we would in any scenario like this, because if you're sitting here, you don't know that all that insanity is coming. You're just here going, well, where the hell am I? So I've got a great ABC for the 4, so I'm just going to start measuring. So as I would with any 1, 2, all right, where are my high probability zones? Can I make any sense of where we are? So if this is my 1, 2, well, let me pull this off. Okay, so where are we looking for the third? Right, between the 1618 and the 175. Well, here's where it's a little problematic because we have 2 pivots that go into that. So with that established, if this is 1, 2, 3, let's pull this off here. So this is a contender for the 3. And because I can get a diagonal in here to finish the 5, I'm inclined to think that from the 2 here, let's get this up here. From the 2 here, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, again, because I know this was a technical pivot, that tagged a median line. I want to see how that plays going up. So from the, well, let's see, am I in original? Yeah, I am. Okay, so let me go from original. Get right on the wave 1 low. We know this was a perfect tag of a median line here. Let's get right on there. All right, so we get a corner right on there. Okay, so there's our corner pocket. So there's your 80%, right? As I remind you anytime I can. Best odds in trading, right? 80. So it's always the same condition. If this pivot holds, 80% probability of making the median line. So you look at that, and with that 1618 being there at the 3, I'm inclined to lean into this as a solid 3. So 1, 2, I get the confluence of hitting the 1618 and the median line together. Right, again, I promise you guys, that does not happen randomly. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, that looks solid. So it looks like I can go, pardon me, here's the bigger 3 right here. So we're in that little pocket. So let's do both of them. So from here, this is the 1, 2. How do I look on the 1 to the proposed 2? Well, I have some nice confluence here. So I get to the 1, 2, 7, 2. So I get a little overlap here of the internal 1, 2, 3, right? Doesn't make the 1618 on that degree, but the confluence with the median line, I'm inclined to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're back to that high probability zone for the 3 here in this pocket. So as it relates to this degree, I think we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into this zone here. Now this is, interestingly, we tag it once, then we don't have the legs to go again, and that's where we start to fall off. So from there, we get the A, B, C, which is, I would propose, is the 4 here. Now, because we overlap the 1, we got to play it as a diagonal. So then you got to look here and you think, okay, well, wait a minute. I've got an impulse in the 3rd, but I've overlapped the 1. So now here's where it just becomes just so problematic. So you have to relabel it. So what does that leave you? So I've got a diagonal finishing here. So if you're sitting here, right, and you're thinking, oh, I've got it. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, up we go for the 5. Right, but it doesn't happen, right? And we overlap the 1. So meaning I've got to relabel here. So what are the options here? Well, so what you have, you have a high probability zone for the 3rd, but the subdivision doesn't work. So now you got to pull this off and go, all right, can't be that, because with that overlap, now I got a diagonal. So I got to trade this as an ABC. ABC. I can finish with the diagonal in the 5th here, but this is problematic. So is this A, B, C? Well, so this is, yeah, let's check this. So from this pivot low here, right? So there's the 38. So it's a little bit of a guesstimate. So is this A, B, C? So let's try that. So if we go here, if this is A, B, C, so that can be so this can be 1, 2, 3. Maybe that plays better. Then the 4 is here. So now you look and you think, well, maybe I've got it all wrong. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 4. But look at the, so again, just hopefully, guys, you find the value here in doing it this way, right? Do I know what it is? Yeah, but I want to take you through this because this is what you're going to bump into. So look at the 2 relative to the 4. And the 4 by itself already, like how are you getting an ABC out of that? You really can't, right? So it looks like so you might now be thinking, okay, so that doesn't work. So maybe I've got this misidentified. So maybe this is ABC. So now you start rethinking. All right? So now you're over here thinking, okay, wait a minute. 1, 2, if that's 3, so maybe I've got 3 here, 4, but then I don't have a diagonal, so it doesn't work again. So if this is going to be the 4, if you're going to stay with the diagonal, then this has to be the 3. Right, so the C has to come up here, and then you got to think, well, maybe I've got a kind of an unusual shape, right? But how do I get an A? How do I get a B out of that? Right, so once again, it doesn't quite work. So this is kind of the conundrum that we all go through as we're looking here. So now you think, okay, well, I know this was technically an ideal location for the 3rd, even though I am in a diagonal now with this overlap. So it leaves either the 4 is misidentified, or something else is going on. So if it's 1, 2, A, B, C into a 3, well, maybe I've got something more like this. Maybe I've got more complexity into the 4. But now I can't finish, right? So same problem. So now I can think, well, maybe it's A. Boy, that's a little bit of a push. So you'd have to do it this way. So maybe you can go A, B, C. All right, so let me put that. Let's go to white, and we'll go up a degree or 2. Let's go to, just so you can see it. So let's go to minuet. So does that make sense? A, B, A, B, C? Well, it doesn't really play. So maybe you got to go A, B, C into the B. So we get an expansion here in the B wave. But then that looks like A, B, C into the A. So now you got to pull that off. So this is just this is the process that we all go through as you're trying to figure out where we are. So either you have to relabel the whole thing, and the 3 is done here, and this is a 2. Well, if that's 1, 2, how would that set up? So now you're here pulling from the 4, thinking, okay, I must have it all wrong. If that's going to be a 2, I want a deeper retracement. So now that has you come back here and go, all right, wait a minute. All right, so if this is A, B, C of a 2, well, then maybe I've got a double top over here. So, which is kind of back where we started. So that process it's essentially a process of elimination. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we're kind of back to what's the problem with that? Well, how do you get an ABC out of that? You can't. So you could be here, failed 5th. I can get a little diagonal there. You're kind of left, without having any certainty here. So this looks, so you'd have to play it like this. If this is going to be your 4, you're going to have to dig this as an ABC into that. Let's get that. So is that a stretch? Yeah, perhaps, right? So then 1, 2, 3, well, is that even long enough? Let's check here. So from the low here, is that 1, 2? Would that work? That's long enough. So the diagonal could play back in here. So I could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gives me, well, let's get that degree down. That's kind of silly. Let's get to submicro here, and we'll go to green. Okay, so now I'm kind of back here thinking, all right, so the 4 could be over here. I'm back into an impulse over here. Well, now I've got 3, 4, 5. Well, what's left now? A, so coming down. So if it's going to be A, B, C, now it plays better. I still have the problem of the poor symmetry in the 4, but through process of elimination, you're kind of running out of options. So this is why my initial reaction was, oh, please, anything but Tesla, because this is just such a cluster in here. It's just very difficult to come up with a count that makes sense. Here you've got bad symmetry. So either you have to choose the 4 here, or you got to redo the entire thing as a diagonal because of the overlap. Since the retracement here is so deep, I'm more inclined to think of this as a 2. So my inclination is to go as a completed 1, 2. Right, so now what do we got? All right, so 3, 4, 5, got to put them somewhere. Let me take the degree up. Oh, let's go to minuet. That's fine. All right, so if that's 1, 2, now what are we doing? Right, so we've already challenged the 2 here. Barely, we stay inside of it. So if this is 1, well, as we put the whole thing back together, where's 5? Right? Is this 5? Well, it wouldn't make sense. So you're getting all sorts of mixed signals here. So if this is 4 and this is just the 1 of 5, well, that suggests, which is my bias, is that Tesla is going much, much higher. So if this is 1, 2, well, yeah, right. So again, so you break down. No matter how you slice this, the count keeps breaking down. Because if it's 1, 2, that sure as hell is not a 1, 2. So you can barely, well, shit, could you get it? So if this were 1, 2, you're looking for a 3. Well, maybe, let me push all of this up here. So come here. Maybe you could make this case that you had a 1 here, A, B, C into a 2, meaning this would have to be yet again another 1, 2. So 3, 4, and 5. Let me change that degree and that color. We'll go sub minuet. Let's go. Oh, we'll go to blue here. Okay. So if that's so, could that work? Well, yeah, technically, as long as we don't violate this pivot here, which is mighty close, we could trade this as a 1, 2. But then this has to be turned into another 1. So you'd have to go, well, yeah, and that's there. So you could get that. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is there. So this would have to be 1. And then you're doing yet again another 2 here, 3, 4, 5. So we got to change that degree. Let's go to micro and let's go to, we'll go to white. Okay. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, does that make sense? Right, so you're kind of left in the, right? So are you just complicating for the sake of complicating? Are you just fighting to get a count here because you feel like you must? So I come back to, is this helping me? Think of it that way. Is fighting through this count really helping me? Or is it just leading me to the conclusion that there is no high probability trade here because this is just a giant cluster F and it's anybody's guess what's happening in there? So is there a trade here? Well, you're certainly at an area of prior support. So you could make that case. You could probably come up with some sort of a set of median lines here to suggest that you had something here. Well, that... didn't even mean to do that. But so here, from here, get right on there. So we're into this little pocket. Now we're in between. So we don't make the 618. We're through the 50, but we sure as hell make the median line, right? So there's a corner pocket. So is that a 1, 2? Are you buying here just because this is a prior area of demand? There's not real help here. You can see we're in this little low volume node here that we've just come into. Is this support? All right, again, you got a Fed meeting tomorrow. The market's on a tear. Tesla tends to trade on its marches to its own beat here. So is this ABC into a 1, 2? So are we going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2? I would propose to you that without more clarity and more tell as to what the hell is going on here, there's just even working through this. So you might come through this and you might get an entirely different count. But are you going to have a high probability trade setting up? I think seems unlikely here. So there's very little to do other than hurry up and wait, unless you want to buy into the idea that Elliott count aside, because it's such a cluster in here, that you just look at what's the simplest thing I can do. Well, I'm at prior support. I would have potentially now a trip back to the set of median lines. So from an algo perspective, I'm right in the sweet spot, right where they're going to buy it. There's my target, 435. I sure as hell wouldn't ride it below that 65, right? So you're going to lose the buy side algo, at least from this pivot. So if you're a buyer here at the 50, stop under the 65 with a target up there. Well, nothing wrong with that. Again, I'm not sure. Well, let me say it this way. I would not be buying anything the day before, but adding new positions the day before a Fed hike. Or pardon me, before the Fed releases a statement. We don't know that it's not a hike. Pardon me, I did not mean to say that. So if we're going down here, but let's just split the difference here. So we get in between. So what kind of risk reward would you have? So if you feel like the market is already telling us something by its action today, what do you get there? You know, it's almost 6 to 1, and that's just assuming you're going to the first target, right? If we get a true third out of this, well, they're their second target here. Now you're at 8 and almost 9 to 1. So is there a trade there? Yeah. Right. Now we could. I wouldn't be moving this just yet, as this pivot is holding here, even though we've broken the parallel here. The 2.5 is holding it. That's what I would be if I were going to do anything. That's the trade that I would put on, and I'd probably do it with options just to avoid the potentials. Should there be any surprise, which I think is unlikely tomorrow, but should there be any surprise, at least the option gives you a little bit more of a cushion, so you can construct a bullish position here and not put yourself to where. You take, but it's right. You don't have to worry about too much slippage here. So I would be stop under the 65. Right, you're going to get better leverage with options. That's really what it comes down to. Right, lower capital to hold the trade. I mean, you're buying a $250 stock, so there's other ways to get delta long there. Right, looking for that as a first target. But in general, the Elliott count, it's anyone's guess. All right, guys, that's about all I can add there. But I think, it's not a bad thought to go through this and see if you can work out the count. Now, you just watch me try and do it on the fly just to give you because I know that's likely the same process you're going to go through. So hopefully there's some value there. That's my hope. Anyway, guys, all right, there you go. I'll be back. I think we're going to do one more.